Hello everyone, welcome to Geo-Politics. So today in this topic, we will going to talk about what is deep state and the how deep state work, कैसे काम करता है deep state, कैसे deep state किसी भी topic को उठा के किसी भी country में put कर देता है with the help of different kinds of elements they use as a tool, and after that they use those tools to manipulate the market of that particular country to earn the billions of dollars from their market. तो नया ट्रेंड चालू हुआ है कि क्लाइमेट चेंज, एग्रीकल्चर, सीड मार्केट, फर्टिलाइजर, these are the trends are nowadays is being used by the deep state to earn the billions of dollars. So देखो हम यूज किया है NGOs. What are the NGOs? NGOs are called the non-governmental organization. कैसे deep state इस NGOs को यूज करता है, and with the help of these NGOs, the deep state running this world, and how they are using those NGOs to manipulate the economy of a particular country, to manipulate the internal politics of a particular country, how they influence the peoples with the help of those NGOs, how they influence the universities with the help of those NGOs, and how they influence the local businesses with the help of those NGOs. The deep state actually uses those NGOs to create the steers within the country and create different kinds of problems within the country, and they then force that government to solve that problem with the help of those NGOs. And this is how they manipulate the market. This is how they exterminate the chances of that market into the global economy. Their actually goal is to control the global economy, to maintain the monopoly of the world. So the deep state का concept कैसे आया, how the concept of the deep state came into being, तो कैसे आया उसको समझते पहले. तो we all know about the industrial revolution. So industrial revolution कब आया? The industrial revolution आया 1760s में. तो उसने the industrial revolution started in 1760 and it went on to 1820 to 1840. क्यों इंडस्ट्रियल रेवोल्यूशन आया? इंडस्ट्रियल रेवोल्यूशन के पीछे एक कारण था. वो कारण था द ट्रांजिशन फ्रॉम द एग्रीकल्चरल मार्केट टू इंडस्ट्रियलाइज मार्केट. तो इंडस्ट्रियल रेवोल्यूशन कैसे आया? विदाउट इंडस्ट्रियल बेस इंडस्ट्रियल रेवोल्यूशन आना पॉसिबल नहीं था. तो कैसे आया? तो वो आया क्योंकि एट दैट टाइम देयर वर साइंटिस्ट, डिफरेंट साइंटिस्ट फ्रॉम द डिफरेंट एरिनास of different engineering fields, some were from the physics field, some were from the chemistry field. So they started discovering the things. At that time, the Gutenberg discovered the press. At that time, the James Watt discovered the steam engine. And also the industrial revolution particularly affected the textile market of that time. So जब industrial revolution आया, तो इंडस्ट्रियल रेवोल्यूशन आने के बाद द यूरोपियन मार्केट स्टार्टेड प्रोड्यूसिंग द फाइन गुड्स एंड दे डिड नॉट हैव द मार्केट्स. They did not have the market because their markets were too small to produce that good and sell that goods at a particular rate. So what they did, they started sending the travelers around the world in order to find the different countries. Their particular goal was India. Why India? क्यों इंडिया उन लोगों के पास इतना खास था? क्योंकि at that time the European market was flooded by the Indian goods, and the Indian goods were so good that was not even in comparison when they started producing the goods using the machines, using the fine chemicals, using the different kinds of other procedures. But at that time the Indian goods were far more better than the goods that those goods they were producing using the machines. तो मशीन में जो गुड्स वो लोग प्रोड्यूस कर रहा था उससे ज़्यादा अच्छा था इंडियन गुड्स. तो इसीलिए उन लोगों को एक आइडिया था इंडिया के बारे में. द इंडिया इज एन गोल्डन पैरट and we all need to go to India to do the business, to spread the business, and also to capture the market, and also to destroy the Indian market, destroy the Indian artisan market, destroy the Indian MSME market at that time. So why they wanted to destroy that? Because Indian goods were flooding their market and their goods were not that good to sell into that market. सो उन लोगों ने ट्रैवलर भेजा, तो ट्रैवलर भेज के वो इंडिया के लिए ट्रैवलर भेजते थे, बट those travelers actually discovered several other countries in Africa, and they also discovered United States at that time. At that time United States were ruled by the Red Indians. So ऐसे वैसे उन लोगों ने देश कवर करना शुरू कर दिया, खोजना शुरू कर दिया. तो खोजने के बाद डिफरेंट कंट्रीज, यूनाइटेड किंगडम आया, पुर्तगाल आया, स्पेन आया, जर्मनी आया, उसके बाद डच नीदरलैंड्स आया, and also several other countries, रशिया भी आया, but Russia did not send the travelers outside the world to seek for the other countries. What they did their influence. That they had the influence at that time, the huge influence at the neighboring countries. So they started doing their business in the neighboring countries. But इंग्लैंड बहुत छोटा था, स्पेन बहुत छोटा था, तो इसीलिए इन लोगों ने बाहर ट्रैवलर भेजना शुरू कर दिया टू सीक फॉर द डिफरेंट कंट्रीज. सो फर्स्ट इंडिया आया, वो था पुर्तगीज ट्रैवलर वास्को डा गामा फर्स्ट इंडिया में आया. वो इंडिया में आके वो 2 जहाज भर के इंडियन गुड्स लेके गया वो यूरोपियन मार्केट में, एंड ही अर्न्स thousands of dollars at that time. Dollars, I cannot say the dollars, but thousands of money, whatever the money they had at that time. The Vasco da Gama earned huge amounts of money at that time. And by seeing that, different other countries started sending their business interest in India. पुर्तगीज आया, उसके बाद फ्रेंच आया, उसके बाद डच भी आया. तो उसके बाद आया at the last, उसके बाद सबसे at the end, the British actually came to India, and उन लोगों ने 200 साल इंडिया में राज किया. 200 साल कैसे राज किया? Because they used the different kinds of tactics and the different kinds of tricks to fool the Indian rulers, to capture the lands by implementing different kinds of land bills, and they used that procedure to capture the lands from the Indian farmers. And they started producing the raw material by forcing the Indian farmer to produce that particular groups. They started producing different kinds of cash crops. The cash crops like indigo, like cotton, they started producing those goods because that kinds of raw material was required for their industrial base, which is back there in the United Kingdom, and also for the other countries in France and Spain, Dutch, in Netherlands. So they forcing the English forced the Indian farmers to produce the raw materials that was required for their industrial base back in home. So तो उसके बाद में क्या हुआ? In 1917 the first world war start हुआ because they started colonizing the world, and the fight between the colonizers, the Germany, then at that time the Turkey was the Ottoman Empire, and also the Spain, United Kingdom, France, उन लोगों के बीच में एक competition शुरू हुआ. So that competition led to the war. Then that was known to the world as a First World War, or sometimes called the Great War. And first, why this is called the First World War? Because they make other colonial powers involved in that war. That is why, from that sense, this is called the First World War. But the war was confined into the Europe. That was not spread across the world. Anyway, after the 1970, things changed because Germany was controlled. But after 1935, the things in the Germany changed slowly but very steadily. The Hitler came into power. After Hitler came into power, he had ambitious projects in his heads, different kinds of ambition. He was atrocious too, because he ended the democracy in Germany, and by ending the democracy in Germany in 1939, he invaded his border countries, Belgium, Poland, different countries. He invaded all the border countries in Europe, and the Second World War began. तो Second World War के time क्या हुआ? The United Kingdom did not make itself involved into the Second World War immediately, because उन लोगों को पता था कि if United States get involved into the country, they have to use that resources for its own use. तो वो क्या कर रहा था? That country, the United States, was sending the resources to the Europe to fight the war against the Germany. But United States have to enter the war when the Pearl Harbor happened, when the Germany attacked the Pearl Harbor and killed several Americans and destroyed several boats for a specific fleet which was there in the Pearl Harbor in Hawaii. So उसके बाद United States आया. The United States आने के बाद at last in 1945 the war ended when United States dropped 2 nuclear bombs in Hiroshima and Nagasaki. So जब हिरोशिमा और नागासाकी में न्यूक्लियर बॉम्ब ड्रॉप किया तो उसके बाद वर्ल्ड वॉर एंड हो गया. बट हाउ द डीप स्टेट केम इनटू एन बीइंग, व्हाई द डीप स्टेट केम एंड हाउ दे फॉर्म्ड. बिकॉज डीप स्टेट का मतलब क्या होता है? डीप स्टेट मीन्स द डीप स्टेट वर्क्स behind the government. They are controlling the government of the United States, in some instance the United Kingdom, and also some instance some other countries, some other European countries like Germany, and also in case of France we can say, in case of Spain we can say, in case of Portugal we can say. So Western European countries, the governments are being controlled by those groups or the peoples, those who are behind the curtain of the government of those countries. तो ऐसे डीप स्टेट आया. तो डीप स्टेट का एग्जाम्पल्स क्या होता है? डीप स्टेट का एग्जाम्पल, देयर आर सेवरल एग्जाम्पल्स ऑफ डीप स्टेट. तो देयर आर सेवरल ग्रुप्स those who were formed at the time of the Cold War, because 1945 के बाद कोल्ड वॉर आया. सो कोल्ड वॉर में क्या हुआ? कोल्ड वॉर में हुआ कि the rivalry between the USSR, Soviet Union, and the United States grew. And as the rivalry grew, the competitions lead to the different kinds of discovery of different other things. The space rivalry भी आया, उसके बाद energy rivalry भी आया, then उसके बाद geopoliticals, and geopolitical rivalry में क्या आया? And those countries, the United States involved into the several war, and as well as the Soviet Union also get itself involved into the several war. The United Kingdom also followed the path of the United States, because United Kingdom का जो power था at the time of colonial period, their power reduced. They became weak, very very weak, and their currency also became very very weak. And then United States come into play. Then United States dollar became very powerful. They formed the United Nations, which was the offshoot of the League of Nations, which was a failed organizations. So United Nation भी create हुआ. तो United Nation create होने के बाद different kinds of other organization आया in to handle the different matter. तो क्या हुआ? जब United Nation आया, तो United Nation आने के बाद the climate was a big issue, because these countries, these industrialized countries were producing the goods using the coal, particularly the coal. So coal में क्या हुआ? These countries were producing the greenhouse gases. Greenhouse gas जब produce हुआ, then the temperatures of the world started increasing. Then they used the climate change as a tool to form the different organization in the United Nation. The United Nation में क्या हुआ? In 1979, the World Climate Conference, the first World Climate Conference was held and acknowledged the role of the countries in causing the climate change and paved the way for the United Nations to study that climate change. तो climate change का concept आया 1979 में. So climate change का issue क्यों आया? Climate change का issue आने के पीछे एक ही कारण था, वो था the industrialization by the developing countries. And those developing countries were producing goods using coal and also using the crude oil at that time, because use of the crude oil became predominant in the Western societies, and as a result they were producing the goods using those two things, and they were producing the greenhouse gases. As a result of the producing greenhouse gases, the temperature of the earth started increasing, and when the temperature of the earth started increasing, the concept of the climate change becoming predominant into the society. तो इसलिए क्या हुआ? Subsequently in 1988 में क्या हुआ? 1988 में यूनाइटेड नेशन का 2 ग्रुप था. दो ग्रुप था, द यूनाइटेड नेशन एनवायरमेंटल प्रोग्राम एंड द वर्ल्ड मेट्रोलॉजिकल ऑर्गेनाइजेशन, उसका एक्रोनिम है WMO. उन लोगों ने क्या किया, इस दो ग्रुप ने क्या किया, दे एस्टैब्लिश ए डेडिकेटेड ऑर्गेनाइजेशन डेडिकेटेड टू द क्लाइमेट चेंज. उसका नाम था द इंटर गवर्नमेंटल पैनल ऑन क्लाइमेट चेंज, एक्रोनिम है IPCC. एंड दैट इज एन वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट चेंज दैट हैपेंड एट दैट टाइम. वो उसका काम क्या था, वो काम करता था, वो कलेक्टेड द डेटा ऑन द क्लाइमेट चेंज एंड कलेक्टेड द डेटा टू फॉर्म ए पर्टिकुलर रिपोर्ट अकॉर्डिंग टू द डेटा एंड पब्लिश द डेटा ईयर आफ्टर ईयर. तो उसका काम ये था. तो IPCC फॉर्म हो गया. उसके बाद उसके साथ WMO भी था, उसके साथ डिफरेंट काइंड्स ऑफ अदर इन्वायरमेंटल प्रोग्राम भी था टू फिक्स द इन्वायरमेंट, टू फिक्स द क्लाइमेट. बट उसके बाद 1997 में एक बहुत बड़ा काम हुआ. तो वो व्हाट वाज दैट बिग थिंग हैपेंड इन द 1997? वो हुआ था द यूनाइटेड नेशन एडोप्टेड द कियोटो प्रोटोकॉल. द कियोटो प्रोटोकॉल, उसका नाम कियोटो प्रोटोकॉल हुआ क्योंकि द एनवायरमेंटल ग्रुप्स and those environmental event actually happened in the Kyoto. Kyoto is the city which is in Japan, and according to the name of that city, the protocol became the Kyoto Protocol. तो उसमें क्या था, that treaty, that protocol which required the 37 industrialized nation, including the United States, to reduce the greenhouse gas emissions, which was to come into an effect 2005. So 1997 में एक प्रोटोकॉल आया, कियोटो प्रोटोकॉल. उसको इफेक्ट में आने के लिए 8 साल लगा. 2005 में वो इफेक्ट में आया. तो उसका आर्गुमेंट क्या था, द आर्गुमेंट फॉर द एडॉप्शन ऑफ द प्रोटोकॉल फॉर डेवलप्ड वर्ल्ड, नॉट द डेवलपिंग वर्ल्ड. एट दैट टाइम डेवलप्ड वर्ल्ड वाज ओनली रिस्पॉन्सिबल फॉर द एमिशन ऑफ द ग्रीन हाउस गैसेज. इसीलिए द डेवलप्ड वर्ल्ड आया, एंड वाज दैट दीज कंट्रीज had to reduce the greenhouse gas emission. And how it will going to happen, and that was proposed that they have to externalize their industries in different countries. They have to help the developing world to set up the different industrial complexes in their own countries to diversify the emission of the greenhouse gases. तो उसका concept आया. but at that time, several oil producing organizations, they were not ready to accept the Kyoto Protocol. So they started arguing against the Kyoto Protocol as it was not favorable to their business interest. उसका business interest क्या था? उसका business interest है to produce the oil, and to produce the oil, the emission of the greenhouse gas is must. So therefore, if the Kyoto Protocol came into an effect, it will going to affect their business interested. So therefore there was several oil producing companies. तो उसके अंदर ऑयल प्रोड्यूसिंग कंपनी कौन कौन था, उसके अंदर था ब्रिटिश पेट्रोलियम BP, शेल था, एंड एक्सॉन मोबिल था. तो एक्सॉन मोबिल, ये लोग क्या करता था, दिस कंपनीज actually producing the oil from the Western Asian countries, particularly from Iran, Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, Qatar. These countries, their business empire was in those countries to produce the oil and to send the oil in the different countries in the developing world. So they were producing the oil for the world, and they had the monopoly in oil business. इसीलिए उन लोगों ने इसका खूब जोर विरोध किया, particularly the एक्सॉन मोबिल ऐसा विरोध किया कि उसका जो CEO था, द फॉर्मर CEO, द ली रेमंड ने एक बीरा उठाया. तो उन लोगों ने क्या किया, टू प्रूव द क्लाइमेट चेंज रॉन्ग, एंड द एक्सॉन मोबिल स्टार्टेड फंडिंग ग्रुप्स एंड क्रिएटेड ए टीम कॉल्ड द ग्लोबल क्लाइमेट साइंस टीम टू चेंज द सेम. तो उन लोगों ने ग्रुप को फंड करना शुरू कर दिया. कौन सा ग्रुप? different kinds of NGOs, different kinds of groups, particularly responsible for the climatic actions. And climatic action means to publish the report regarding the climate. तो उन लोगों ने उसका जो रिपोर्ट था, to manipulate those report, they started funding those groups. So उनमें था, and in 1998 उन लोगों ने क्या किया, they started a program called the Oregon Project. उसका particular name था the Global Warming Protection Project. उसका recognition था Oregon Institute of Science and Medicine. तो उन लोगों ने क्या किया, द सिग्नेचर प्रोग्राम स्टार्ट किया, एक सिग्नेचर कलेक्शन प्रोग्राम स्टार्ट किया फ्रॉम द साइंटिस्ट हु बिलीव्ड दैट देयर वाज नो साइंटिफिक एविडेंस प्रोवाइडिंग दैट क्लाइमेट चेंज इज मैन मेड. तो एक्सॉन मोबिल ने क्लाइमेट चेंज के अगेंस्ट एक मुहिम खोल दिया कि उन लोगों का आर्गुमेंट था द क्लाइमेट चेंज वाज नॉट रिस्पॉन्सिबल बिकॉज ऑफ द मैन मेड रीजन, देयर वाज सम अदर रीजंस दैट वर रिस्पॉन्सिबल फॉर द क्लाइमेट चेंज. Who knows that what was those reasons? Nobody knows that what are the other reasons that was responsible for the climate change. And those groups that were funded by the ExxonMobil, they did not came up with a particular list of things that was particularly responsible and not being made by the human beings. तो उस सिग्नेचर प्रोग्राम में क्या हुआ, तो उन पिटिशन में 31,400 सिग्नेचर साइन हुआ, बट उनमें से ओनली 39 क्लाइमेटोलॉजिस्ट ने उन पिटीशन को साइन किया था. बिकॉज दैट वॉज द स्केप्टिक थिंग्स, बिकॉज द ह्यूमन बींग्स वॉज रिस्पॉन्सिबल for the climate change. You can clearly see that the deep state, how the deep state works, you can see over here. They started funding those groups, and they also pushed the government not to sign the Kyoto Protocol. What they did that they pushed that. Then the president of the United States, the George W. Bush, not to sign the Kyoto Protocol. They forced the George W. Bush to withdraw from Kyoto Protocol in 2005. And similar thing happened in the 2017 when the Donald Trump did the same thing by withdrawing the United States from the Paris Agreement. तो Paris Agreement में क्या था? Paris Agreement में था क्या? 1.5 डिग्री टेम्परेचर राइज को लिमिट करना है, टू लिमिट द राइज ऑफ द 1.5 डिग्री सेंटीग्रेड. उसके लिए क्या करना था? ग्रीन हाउस गैस एमिशन, द सेम थिंग, उसको रिड्यूस करना है. एंड सो मेनी रिन्यूएबल थिंग्स हैज टू बी अप्लाइड टू प्रोड्यूस द एनर्जी. तो इन लोगों ने, बट 2005 में इन लोगों के प्रेशर में, इन ऑयल कंपनीज के प्रेशर में, जॉर्ज डब्ल्यू बुश withdrawal from the Kyoto Protocol. So you can clearly see how the things work over here under the pressure of these pressure groups. Because Exxon Mobil का जो founder है, उसके बारे में मैं बाद में बात करूंगा. I mean, in next slides, in some from the next slide, I will going to talk about that. Who is the founder of the Exxon Mobil and what was their interest? Because the man who actually behind the foundations of the organizations, that man or that organizations is particularly called the deep state. That is the pure definitions of the deep state over here. That how they force a government of the United States, the world most powerful country's government of the United States, not to sign the Kyoto Protocol. And that has happened for the first time. And they also did the same. In 2008 में जब यूएस प्रेसिडेंशियल इलेक्शन था, तब जो लोग यूएस प्रेसिडेंशियल इलेक्शन में लड़ रहा था, तब 3 लोग थे. तो डेमोक्रेटिक पार्टी से था बराक ओबामा, एंड रिपब्लिकन में था जॉन मैकेन, एंड हिलारी क्लिंटन वाज आल्सो देयर फॉर द प्रेसिडेंटशिप, बट शी डिड नॉट ओन. तो उन लोगों का आर्गुमेंट क्या था? In the run-up to the presidential polls of the 2008, the John McCain and the Hillary Clinton advocated a cap and the trade legalize the things. Legalize capping means उन लोग cap कर रहा था the use of the oil, use of the conventional energy, different kinds of conventional energy के ऊपर cap लगाना चाहता था. So they were these peoples, I mean the Barack Obama and the Hillary Clinton, they both were advocated for the use of the renewable energy by reducing the use of the conventional fuels. जॉन मैकेन किया था? जॉन मैकेन ने सेम काम किया था, but in a different form. John McCain was advocating for the nuclear power plant. And the nuclear power plant are, in the true sense, is not a renewable energy. It is a renewable energy, but in true sense, it is not a renewable energy. उसके पीछे कारण है क्योंकि when you are producing the electricity by using the nuclear fuel, then you are producing also the nuclear waste. And to control the nuclear waste, to handle the nuclear waste, you need the nuclear pits to collect those nuclear waste and the store in different places. And to store those things, you need the space. And because if you are not storing those things, if you are sending those things to the other places, the use of those nuclear waste being used by the terrorist, it's very, very much certain. So that is why to control the waste is very much important. So जॉन मैकेन ने क्या किया था? जॉन मैकेन ने बोला था कि उन लोग ये करेंगे. जॉन मैकेन ने न्यूक्लियर फ्यूल के लिए एडवोकेसी किया था. एंड बराक ओबामा एंड हिलारी क्लिंटन वाज एडवोकेटिंग फॉर द यूज ऑफ द रिन्यूएबल एनर्जी के यूज में क्या आया था wind power and also the solar power. And ultimately the Barack Obama became the president of the United States in 2008. And after becoming the president of the United States, what happened? In 2009 January 8, a bill came up. The bill का नाम था the Waxman-Markey Carbon Regulation Bill. Let me give you the name again. The Waxman-Markey Carbon Regulation Bill, which advocated the cap and trade. So वो bill आया था in 2009 में आया था, and that would replace the pollution and encourage the United States. And the United States means the organization, those who are working in the United States, to adopt a clean energy economy and empower its renewable energy industry. But that bill was not passed. You can see over there the pressure from the groups, those who were working behind the curtain, behind the curtain where the power of these presidents came to an end. So these groups, the same groups, were forcing the government of the United States not to pass that bill. And that bill was very good for the environment, because that bill was bringing the cap and the use of the conventional energy. So उन लोगों ने क्या किया? रिन्यूएबल एनर्जी को पुश नहीं किया, but they were advocating. But surprisingly in December 2006, तो एक्सन मोबिल ने क्या किया था? एक्सन मोबिल चेंज देयर ट्यून. उन लोगों ने उसका ट्यून चेंज किया, क्योंकि उन लोग दे स्टार्टेड एडवोकेटिंग द क्लाइमेट चेंज एज ए रियलिटी, दैट क्लाइमेट चेंज इज रियल एंड वी हैव टू गो फॉर द रिन्यूएबल एनर्जी. क्यों किया उन लोगों ने? क्योंकि at that time they started realizing that renewable energy is a real market and there is a chance for them to invest in that market and to earn the billions. So उन लोगों ने क्या किया? They started investing in the renewable market. And और एक काम किया था एक्सॉन मोबिल ने in 2007 in its corporate citizenship report. हर साल ये सब large organizations they publish different kinds of report to make the world know about their work. So उन लोगों ने आया था corporate citizenship report में क्या बोला था? The Exxon announced that from 2008 it would not contribute to research the group that denied the climate change. You can see the timeline over here. 2006 ने Exxon Mobil ने क्या किया? Exxon Mobil ने बोला कि climate change is the reality. In 2007 उन लोगों ने एक रिपोर्ट पब्लिश किया, उसका नाम था कॉर्पोरेट सिटीजनशिप रिपोर्ट. एंड अकॉर्डिंग टू द रिपोर्ट उन लोगों ने क्या कहा कि फ्रॉम 2008 it would not contribute to research group that denied the climate change, and they were denying the climate change before 2006. And in 2008 में क्या हुआ? In 2008 में when the presidential race was on, then all the presidential race candidates were saying that the renewable energy is the future of the world, the future of the United States, and it should be accepted by the world and it should be accepted by the United States. And according to that, they came up with a bill, and the bill called Waxman-Markey Carbon Regulation Bill. And surprisingly, that bill did not pass. That bill did not pass the Congress. So you can see the hypocrisy of the United States and those deep states, those who were working behind from the curtain. And you can see that those groups, that how they are working, how they are controlling the world, how they are controlling the world by using the presidents of the world's most powerful country. So they are the leaders, those who were ruling the United States, they are not controlling the United States, particularly the people. The deep state is controlling everything around the world, because they have the monopoly. They have created the monopoly after the end of the 1945, because 1945 में बहुत कुछ हुआ था, बहुत सारा रिपोर्ट आया था, बहुत सारा लोगों ने बहुत सारा रिपोर्ट पब्लिश किया था, and according to that report, the United States started realizing that they have to do these things to create the monopoly around the world, to create the world market, to monopolize the world market, to control the world market, and to control everything, the distribution from production to distributions, everything needed to be controlled. And in the next slide, we will going to talk about that, what was that plan. Before going into the report, we first need to understand a scam. And that scam is IPCC scam. The IPCC means the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change. तो उसके बारे में मैंने पहले भी बात किया हुआ है. Now we will going to understand what is IPCC scam and how it was orchestrated. By understanding the IPCC scam, we will going to understand that how deep rooted the root of this deep state is. Because the deep states actually manipulated a report which was published by an world organization to manipulate the market of a particular country. Market of a particular country, in this case, is India, and also China in some extent. So they use that report to control the market of India, to manipulate the market of India, to get the profit out of it. So what is that report? I'm not saying that the climate change is not real. The climate change is real, and it is happening, and it needed to be stopped. But it cannot be stopped with the help of these groups, those who are manipulating the market, those who are from the face of the earth. They are showing themselves as an climate change activist. From the behind, they are representing themselves as they are using that climate change to manipulate the market of different countries. In these cases, India, but they also use these groups, use these tactics to manipulate the market of some other countries. So in these cases, India. So how did they do it? We will going to understand that. The IPCC, as I said, the IPCC is responsible for publishing a report year after year. Every year they publish a report. But in 2007, what they did, they came up with a report, and that report says the glaciers in Himalayas are receding faster than in any other part of the world, and if the present rate continues, the likelihood of them disappearing by the year 2035 and perhaps sooner is very high. So that report is very concerning, because according to the report, by 2035, Indian rivers devoid of any water, because the Indian rivers are, most of the North Indian rivers are glaciers melt. So if the glaciers will not be there, then those rivers won't have the waters anymore, the devoid of waters. So what will going to happen there? The famine will be prevalent, the crops will be destroyed because of the lack of water, and the peoples will started dying. So that report was there to create the mayhem in the Indian market, to take some measures by the Indian government in case of the renewable energy acceptance. So they wanted, those who were manipulating the IPCC, they wanted India to go renewable instead of going for the conventional energy, in this case coal and crude oil. So they wanted India to go for the renewable, and that claim was orchestrated by the IPCC at that time, the infamous IPCC chairman Dr. Rajendra Pachuri, and he also received received severe criticisms from the different groups, different climatic groups around the world, because according to them that was not possible. But according to the IPCC, as that was possible, IPCC was the highest organizations regarding the climate change. That is why as the chairman of the IPCC, the Dr. Rajendra Pachuri, received several criticisms, severe criticisms from the different groups, because they knew that report was wrong. And how the Dr. Rajendra Pachuri was being manipulated, it was discovered that these allegations of the melting Himalayan glaciers originated from a report by the Dr. Saeed Hasnain. Who was Dr. Saeed Hasnain? Dr. Saeed Hasnain, at that time working in an organization, a Delhi-based organization. Its name is the Energy and the Resource Institute. The acronym is TERI. And Dr. Pachuri was his director. So you can link that thing. I mean, Dr. Pachuri reported that report as an IPCC chairman, and he accepted that report from the Dr. Saeed Hasnain, who was working in his own organizations. And Dr. Pachuri was funded by whom? The Dr. Pachuri was funded by Carnegie Corporation. And Carnegie Corporation funded by whom? The Carnegie Corporation was funded by Ford Foundations and the Rockefeller Foundation. And these two organizations are the pillars of the American global quest since the last century and are responsible for exporting its capitalistic ideology. These two organizations are responsible for forcing the ideas of the capitalistic ideology around the world, killing the socialistic ideology in a socialistic way. They are pushing the socialistic ideology in the democratic country by creating the mayhem. The leftist ideologies are being pushed by these two organizations through the NGOs. In this case, the NGO's name is Carnegie Corporations, who gave Dr. Pachuri's organization TERI $5 lakh to publish the report that was used to manipulate the Indian market. In May 2009, the TERI was also given a role in a €3 million project funded by the European Union. Even after that, even after 2007, in May 2009, the TERI was given a role in a €3 million project funded by the European Union. In this case, why the European Union gave them the project after knowing that man was responsible for manipulating the report of the IPCC, being the chairman of that group, of that organization? Because the Europe mostly come under the influence of these organizations, these Ford Foundations, these Rockefeller Foundation. They have different kinds of prizes, that these prizes are being given by these organizations to a particular peoples of a particular ideology to push those kinds of ideology in a particular country. So they are using their ideology, they are using their money to push the ideology of theirs, to push the ideology of the United States in the form of a leftist form, and create the mayhem into the market, and to push the market in kinds of an unstable position, and helping those organizations to earn billions of dollars from that particular market. It is an extortion, and extortions is being done by this organization. And previously I have also talked about the ExxonMobil, and now I will going to tell you who is the founder of the ExxonMobil. ExxonMobil was founded by one of the Rockefeller. In this case, I think David Rockefeller was the founder of the ExxonMobil, and now the ExxonMobil is being controlled by the Rockefeller Foundation. So you can see the link. The Rockefeller Foundations wanted United States not to sign the Kyoto Protocol, and for that they created several kinds of NGOs. They funded several NGOs, several educational institutions to come up against the climate change. Now they are advocating that climate change is real and the renewable energy needed to be accepted because they have invested billions of dollars in renewable energy industry, and that renewable energy products needed to be sold. Now how they are being sold? they are being sold by using that report, the manipulating the reports of these kinds of organizations, and created the mayhem into the market and forcing the countries to accept the renewable energy sources, renewable energy goods, and to promote the renewable energy in that country. So you can see the scam. The scam is being done by these organizations, and you can see that how deep the root of these deep states, of this organization, in this case deep states means these Rockefeller foundations and the Ford foundations. And today they are joined by the another organization called the Gates Foundation, the most powerful philanthropic body in the world that distributes over $3 billion globally annually. They $3 billion, they spend $3 billion annually. And whom is being controlled? Who is controlling that Gates Foundation? The Gates Foundation is controlled by Bill Gates, who is the founder of the Microsoft, and his ex-wife, the Melinda Gates. These two persons are controlling the Gates Foundations, and these organizations is now pushing for the renewable energy agenda. Bill Gates have also wrote several books on climate change, maybe for the good, from the positive point of view. But these kinds of organizations are mainly responsible to control the resources around the world by manipulating the reports. Around the world, all the countries started accepting dollar as the payment of the crude oil. When the Iraq, in this case Iran and Syria, Iran had also tried to divert from the petroleum, from the dollar. At that time, what happened? These two countries are now in dust. Their leaders are dead. In case of Iraq, Saddam Hussein, which was a creation of the United States, now he is dead. And in case of Libya, which was Muammar Gaddafi, he is also dead. He decided to sell oil by using euro, and Saddam Hussein also decided to sell oil using euro. Now they are no more. Now in the next slide we will going to talk about what was actually the plan that was funded by the Rockefeller Foundations, and on that plan, on that report, the international politics of the United States actually depends on.